If you think survival skills are only for wilderness adventurers, think again. During the Great Depression, millions of people faced daily scarcity in cities and towns across the United States. Groceries were limited, money was scarce, and people had to innovate in ways that would probably surprise modern urban dwellers. Out of that necessity emerged a set of hacks, clever, resourceful, and surprisingly effective strategies that allowed families to stretch their food, water, and energy far beyond what seemed possible. One of these hacks, in particular, addresses urban survival in a way that most modern guides overlook. It focuses on making the most of what you already have, ensuring that resources last longer, reduce dependency on supply chains, and protect your household from the kinds of shocks cities experience today. If you stay with me for the next minute, you'll discover a technique that's simple, practical, and yet powerful enough to transform the way you approach urban preparedness. The Depression-era urban survival hack relied on turning everyday scraps into long-lasting resources. During the 1930s, food waste was a luxury no one could afford. People quickly learned how to transform leftover vegetables, bread, and even coffee grounds into something useful. This wasn't about fancy recipes. It was about maximizing calories, nutrients, and utility while minimizing waste. Families would compost food scraps in small indoor bins, ferment vegetables to extend shelf life, and even create broths and stocks from scraps that modern kitchens would consider garbage. The brilliance of this system was its simplicity. What would have been thrown away became either sustenance, fertilizer for small gardens, or fuel for other household needs. In essence, urban dwellers turned scraps into a closed-loop survival system, something every modern city resident could adopt in a crisis scenario. Applying this in today's urban survival context is surprisingly easy. Start by designating a small, airtight container for vegetable peels, fruit cores, and coffee grounds. Over time, this material can become nutrient-rich compost for container gardens on balconies or in backyards. Leftover bones, chicken carcasses, and vegetable scraps can be boiled down into broths to store in sealed jars, providing long-term nourishment with minimal refrigeration. Even bread crusts can be dried and ground into breadcrumbs, which can then extend the life of new meals. This approach mirrors Depression-era ingenuity and keeps resources in circulation rather than wasting them. The hack worked because it created a reliable food buffer without relying on modern infrastructure. Electricity failures, shortages and rationing were constant threats during the Depression. Families who could store and process food effectively didn't just survive, they thrived under pressure. Urban survival today faces similar vulnerabilities: grid failures, supply chain interruptions, and economic instability. By learning to process and preserve food using these old techniques, you build a buffer that protects your household from unpredictable urban shocks. Simple steps like fermenting vegetables, dehydrating fruits, or preserving grains in airtight containers extend shelf life while boosting nutrition. Even city apartments without large storage spaces can accommodate small jars, compact dehydrators, or countertop fermentation setups. These methods create a reserve that requires no electricity or sophisticated appliances to maintain, echoing the resourcefulness of Depression-era households. The Depression-era hack also emphasized multipurpose tools and materials. During the 1930s, nothing went to waste, and every tool had multiple applications. A single knife was used for food prep, repair, and even personal safety. Cooking pots doubled as storage containers or water heaters. Buckets served for water collection, laundry, and composting. This mindset is essential in modern urban survival, where space is limited and redundancy is costly. When you think about your apartment or small urban home, consider which tools or containers can serve more than one function. A stainless steel pot can cook, store, and heat water. A mason jar can preserve food, ferment vegetables, and act as a drinking container. Using items in multiple ways reduces dependency on specialized gear and ensures that you can adapt to unexpected challenges. The technique was highly effective because it built community resilience, not just individual survival. Depression-era families didn't survive in isolation. Neighbors traded goods, shared surplus, and taught each other preservation methods. Urban survival today works best with the same mindset. Knowledge-sharing networks, food swaps, and neighborhood gardens can amplify the effectiveness of any individual preparation. If you implement these Depression-era hacks with others, your resources stretch further, and the collective resilience of your community rises. Even simple steps, like exchanging dehydrated goods or seeds with a neighbor, mirror the survival strategies that allowed entire communities to endure economic collapse and resource scarcity during the 1930s. This Depression-era hack proves that survival is about ingenuity, not technology. The core lesson is timeless. You don't need expensive kits or high-tech gear to survive in an urban environment. What you need is the ability to make the most of what you already have, preserve resources, and think creatively about the functions of every item in your home. Depression-era survivors turned scraps into sustenance, created multi-use tools, and built resilience within their neighborhoods. Today, the same principles apply to urban survival, whether you're preparing for natural disasters, economic disruptions, or simply learning to thrive with less. If this guide into Depression-era urban survival sparked ideas for your own preparedness, inspired you to rethink waste and resource use, or connected history with practical modern strategies, make sure to subscribe to Backyard Wisdom and share this video. History isn't just about the past. It's a toolkit for surviving the present and future. And every lesson learned is one step closer to true self-reliance.